Hello and welcome to the Thriller Zone. I'm David Temple, your host.
And I'm Tammy Temple.
My lovely co-host has decided to join me, and I'm telling you something. This is going to be a fantastic top 20 summer reads.
It's kind of early here in the Temple Treehouse, hence the gallon of coffee and the triple espresso.
Yeah, we were going to shoot outside, but today is really quite overcast, and it just kind of killed that whole, hey, we're hanging out by the sunny pool with our suntan lotion on, and it's cloudy and overcast. Huh?
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So top 20. How did you come up with 20 books? You always seem to have a formula when it comes to our end of year update, mid-year updates.
Yeah, that scientific formula is very simple. Here's what we do. We're at halfway through the year, right? So a year is 50 weeks. We're in about 25 weeks. I read about 2 books a week. We'll call that 50 books. Let's be conservative and cut it in half, and that's 25 books. So
it's
really,
very complicated math.
I know.
So early.
So really all it is 20 books that I think everyone would enjoy. Now, are we doing a countdown? Yes, I'm channeling Casey Kasem, for those of you who remember him.
Love that.
Yeah. So you're going to have 20th, and then you're going to have countdown to 1. In reality, all I'm doing is I'm trying to think of all the books I've read, how can I cross off military thriller, psychological thriller, political thriller. I've even got a sci-fi thriller. We've got authors that are men, women. I mean, I think we've got the gamut covered. We got some southern thrillers. We got some northern thrillers, east, west. So does that make...
It does. I was going to ask you, you kind of took the question right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you, so is there something for everyone?
There's something for everyone. Thanks, Tammy. I couldn't have put it better.
And I like the fact that we're sitting next to one another for this mid-year update versus being separated by a office wall.
Yeah. Usually I'm in there in the studio, and this is her office. So here's what we're going to do. It's really super simple. We're going to have one honorable mention, which we'll kick off the show with. And the reason he's an honorable mention is because he's a debut author, but the book isn't available yet. So I can't really promote it big time, so to speak, and then you not be able to go out and get it. But we do think it's coming out later this summer.
Oh, nice.
We don't have a hard date, but this guy really impressed me. I'm not saying his name yet. And I just think he's a great talent. And then, so there's going to be somebody somewhere, right? Well, how come so-and-so didn't get number 1? That's who I would have picked. Well, of course.
It's your show, and this is your opinion about who is your favorite number 1 book for the year so far. Number 1 summer read.
Number 1 summer
your
read.
Opinion.
Thank you. That's all it is. And look, when I got down to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it got harder and harder, as you're going to see in the countdown. So I almost had a 3-way tie, and I'm like, well, that's cheesy. And then I'm like, well, there's 2 that are almost equally as good. Well, then I'm like, well, Dave, you're copping out. So we're getting down to number 1.
If I could add one component
Please
to
do.
your favorites, I believe that you walk away from every book with a component about what you like about the location, character development, plot, storyline, you name it. There's always a good takeaway from each book. And that's what I would say as it relates to how you describe the books after you've read them.
There you go.
Inevitably, you'll look at me and say, I really loved how this person described location. Or I really enjoyed the arc of this story. Or how they developed this character. So you always have a really fun takeaway for people like us who are listening to what you have to say. And it also helps me as a reader look at books differently. As I read them. Yeah.
Good.
Very helpful.
Now, before we get to our top 20 summer reads, let's take a brief break, say hi to our new sponsor for the month, And when we come back, we'll kick off the top 20 summer reads.
Sounds great.
Stay with us. Why don't we get to our top 20 summer reads on the Thriller Zone? My first award, and what I'm calling an honorable mention, goes to a young breakout writer who I believe we'll be hearing from for years to come. The reason he's not on the official list is because his book won't be available until later this summer. The author, Anthony Goodell, and the book, Love Lies in the Throes of Rhetoric. Part poetry, part investigation, it's all parts engaging, with a unique voice that shines thanks to his ear toward authentic dialogue and whimsical story structure. It pulls no punches in revealing how life isn't always as it seems. Now on to the top 20. Let's begin with another debut author who also happens to be a veteran Hollywood actor and all-around nice guy. It's John Lindstrom, and his book is Hollywood Hustle. John and I sat down in our LA studios to discuss his crime thriller Breakout, both of which was great fun. That is, hanging out and his book. Trust me when I say John's debut thriller Hollywood Hustle proves he has the goods to compete in the world of thrillers. Hope you'll come back, John. Coming in at number 19 is another of my favorite new authors. Bruce Borges burst onto the scene with The Bitter Past, a book I thoroughly enjoyed. Well, he has followed that up with Shades of Mercy, which is quite possibly even better. His hero, Sheriff Porter Beck, reminds me of an old friend. In fact, and I trust this is the compliment I mean it to be, he reminds me of two other characters, Craig Johnson's Longmire and C.J. Box's Joe Pickett, and yet still retains his own unique character. If you like solid storytelling with memorable characters, you will dig Bruce's Shades of Mercy. Bruce, thanks for all your support. Number 18 goes to Henry Wise and his Southern war thriller Holy City, a book I enjoy on many levels. Sure, there's the familiar twang of the South, the ever-present thickness of atmosphere, and the crusty characters we love to hate. Most of all, in some odd but comfortable fashion, it reminds me of home with the sticky humidity, tobacco fields as far as the eye can see, and the easy comfort of neighbors. Nicely done, Henry. P.S. Henry shows up on a future episode right here on the Thriller Zone. Number 17 comes from the talented author, podcaster, and War at the Bar maestro Eric Beetner and his thriller, The Last Few Miles of Road. From paragraph 1, I enjoyed this book. His character, Carter McCoy, learns he hasn't got long to live and only long enough to do something he's wanted to do for too long. And you'll enjoy this quick read. Nicely done, Eric. Number 16 belongs to Lockbox by author Parker Adams, a.k.a. Joseph Reed. Both men stopped by my home studio to carve out some time to talk about books, surfing, tacos, and life here in San Diego. Yeah, come to learn he's a neighbor, and one hell of a writer. His protagonist, Mana Locke, pun intended, is one fun-to-read protagonist who has a lot to lose if she doesn't obey the bad guys in one final job. Number 15 is from real-life spy Jack Beaumont and his book Dark Arena. If you enjoy spy thrillers, especially with authenticity from a guy who's been there, done that, you'll enjoy this page-turning high-stakes thriller that is literally ripped from today's headlines. Jack launched with The Frenchman, returned with Dark Arena, and I am certain he'll return with another Alec DePayne thriller as soon as possible. Number 14 features Smoke Kings, a book that New York Times bestselling author Don Winslow calls a stunning book that takes the reader on an intense and harrowing journey that's truly unforgettable. I couldn't have said it better, Don. And while I may be late to the party, consider me at the head of the line for Jamal's fan club. And yes, Jamal's promised to appear on an upcoming episode of the TZ. I'm really looking forward to it. Lucky 13 goes to a man who knows his way around thrillers like few others. Yes, you'll know him as the real book spy, while I know him as my new friend. Ryan Steck has returned with another Matthew Red thriller in Out for Blood. As bestselling author Jack Carr says, it's packed with intense, hard-hitting action, to which I'll add, and pulls you in with lots of heart. Read it and see how Ryan's future is white hot. Number 12 goes to the gray man himself. Number 1, New York Times bestselling author Mark Graney. His latest fast-tracking 500-plus page novel, The Chaos Agent, gives you everything you want in a full-blooded military thriller. Action, guns, AI technology, ripped from the headline's plot points, and a main character you want to be around forever. Move aside, Jason Bourne. There's a new sheriff in town, and he's called the Gray Man. Number 11 goes to David McCloskey and Moscow X. I know what you're thinking. Hey, wait, David wasn't on the Thriller Zone to discuss this book. Well, you're right, but he's been on before, and I was so impressed I had to read his follow-up. And while we weren't able to meet for this book, I enjoyed it nonetheless, and just as you would imagine, he's done it again by crafting an engaging plot that threatens chaos in the Kremlin. Moscow X is both a gripping thriller of modern espionage and a daring work of political commentary, all from a guy who's worked at the CIA and knows a thing or three about the spy biz. David will connect again. Number 10 goes to a gal who just may be the next John le Carré. I.S. Berry spent 6 years as an ops officer at the CIA, serving in wartime Baghdad and working throughout Europe and the Middle East. And in that time, she's garnered enough inside scoop to craft ultra-realistic and breathtaking spy thrillers like few others. Oh, and just in case you're still skeptical, and you shouldn't be, she clinched the prestigious Edgar Award for Best First Novel, The Peacock and the Sparrow. P.S. She's promised to make a return visit with her next book. Number 9 goes to yet another spy-themed, politically charged, ripped from the headlines thriller from prize-winning columnist for the Washington Post, David Ignatius. His novel Phantom Orbit is garnering rave reviews and enjoying shouts of praise from retired General David Petraeus, former director of the CIA Michael Hayden, and international best-selling author Lee Child. Phantom Orbit is simply out of this world. Next is number 8 and comes from a man who needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. Number 1, New York Times bestselling author Jack Carr has written his 7th in the James Reese series with Red Sky Morning. And just as you'd expect, Jack delivers all the action, technical prowess, and guns galore you've come to expect from a series that began with The Terminal List, became an Amazon television series, and promises to live a long life in our minds and hearts. Jack Carr fans will love his latest thriller, as do I. Thank you, Jack, for all you do. Lucky number 7 in our lineup features a gentleman who joined us back in February. Terry Hayes, as some of you know, wrote a book called I Am Pilgrim, and his latest, The Year of the Locust, was expected to perform at least as well, if not better than Pilgrim. And it did. And his book, clocking in at just under 800 pages, was epic in scope, to say the least. It was equal parts psychological thriller, revenge story, and even skyrocketed out into the world of sci-fi. All in all, it was simply a fantastic read and a story that stayed with me for months. If you're looking for a book that will hold your attention, perhaps for a long vacation stay, this book fits the bill and then some. Number 6 goes to a man I've just recently learned about, but someone I'm sure to be reading a lot more in the future. Eric Rickstad's Lilith is a sharp, taut, electrifying, yet heart-wrenching thriller that will haunt you for weeks after reading. Don't let all that down-home charm fool you. This international best-selling author has the goods to impress for decades to come. I loved Lilith, and I think you will too. We've inched our way to the final 5, and it goes to yet another number 1 New York Times bestselling author. Do you see a trend here? C.J. Box has written a breathtaking thriller in 3-inch teeth. Think Jaws, but on land. And instead of a shark, it's a grizzly bear. But more importantly, Teeth is a book that pulls you in with a story that promises to entertain with a complex mystery surrounding the now legendary Joe Pickett. Y'all may as well move aside because I'm about to be elected as president of the C.J. Box fan club. Our number 4 top summer reads goes to the mega-talented best-selling author, Edgar winner, Jeopardy champ, Michael Mann collaborator and co-author, and my friend Meg Gardner, and her latest in the unsub series, Shadowheart, featuring FBI profiler Caitlin Hendricks. Once again, as dozens of times before, Meg grabs us by the neck, pulls us in close to the action, and doesn't release her steely grip until the final breathtaking pages. Shadowheart is not only a master class in crime thriller writing, but it's among Meg's best work to date. Okay, now it's getting really tough as we come down to the number 3 spot, which belongs to my longtime hero, more recent mentor, and warmly regarded friend, Don Winslow. His book, City in Ruins, is the culmination of decades of work and pulls together in a pretty dandy bow the entire Danny Ryan series that includes City on Fire, City of Dreams, and City in Ruins. There isn't an author writing today, or one that's recently retired, who has the skills, the insights, the years in the business, and the time in the seat like Don Winslow. Don will go down in history, at least in my mind, as one of the greatest writers of our time. Folks, run, don't walk to grab all three. Read with reckless abandon and see what his legion of fans like me have shouted from day one. Don is the GOAT of thriller writing. All right, we're down to the final two books on our top 20 summer reads of 2024. And while I nearly made these last two authors end in a tie, I felt that was a bit of a cop-out. So number 2 goes to a book that I loved from page 1 and simply could not put down. Christopher Reich's Matterhorn is the perfect spy novel for this time. Now, why do I say that? It's densely packed with enough spycraft to please all Le Carré fans. It's intelligent, well-researched, and provides the reader with a genuine sense of being there. And even among all the espionage, double trickery, and such, there's a full-hearted romance at its core, proving that Christopher Reich is among my new and favorite authors. I loved having him in the studio with me in LA, and I hope to have Christopher back soon in an upcoming episode. Which brings me to number 1. This man has appeared before on this podcast. He's both a series writer for one of the most well-known series in all of thrillerdom, but he's also an exceptional talent for his own standalone books. And with 30 thrillers in the past 20 years, he has been busy and shows no sign of slowing. Brian Freeman's Break Every Rule proves once again that he truly can do it all. Rule has action out of the gate, which rarely slows, has sticky plots, believable heroes, despicable bad guys, but more importantly, and this must mean I'm a romantic, there's a love story at the core that shows you truly he can have action and heart in a satisfying read. In fact, listen to next week's episode when Brian reveals the secret sauce to his tremendous success. Break Every Rule is, in my honest opinion, a book that must sit atop your TBR list this summer. And welcome back. Dave and Tammy here on the Thriller Zone with our top 20 summer reads.
I loved how you laid out the books, how you described your likes, and that honorable mention. I'm super excited to see what happens with Anthony and watch his rise.
I think it's going to be, we've developed a nice friendship over the years, and his writing reminds me of Cormac McCarthy. And
impressive.
Yeah, a lot of people will go, wait, what? But you read it and you'll find out. And as we see so many good books, I had such a struggle with, who to get in the top 5, then who to get in the top 3. And it really came down to the one that I went, wow. When you can't put a book down, like when you literally, I was carrying number 1 with me, Brian Freeman. I was carrying it to radiation therapy, reading before my radiation. I took it with me when I was working out in the gym and I was on the cycle, just so I could squeeze in every little page. So that's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, you have had a few books like that where I will wake up in the morning and you will have been out here already reading because you couldn't wait to get back into the story.
Or, thank you. And conversely, it could be like in the case of Terry Hayes, where at 800 pages, you've got to squeeze in every opportunity to be able to hit those number of pages. But that book held me all the way, and that is saying something, because Daddy's attention span ain't as long as it used to be.
I do remember when you were reading Terry's book, and you kept talking about just how great the storyline was, and exactly that. Yeah. A lot of pages, but great content, and really well worth the time.
Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the top 20 summer reads. As you're going to find out very quickly, I double stacked June, and July's kind of running itself. I'm taking August off to kind of catch my breath, thanks to my wife, who says, why do you work so hard? Why don't you take a little break for the summer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very happy to, it's off from the podcast. The creative brain doesn't stop. So I'm excited to see what you develop over the course of the next couple of months and how the Thriller Zone might take on another look, another feel come September.
Yeah, there's a couple things going on to that point. Thank you for bringing that up. We're making a couple little changes to the Thriller Zone. We're going to launch, by the way, season 7 on September 9th. So that's the first Monday after Labor Day. That'll be the launch of the new season. We're wrapping the 6th season now. that's number one. Number two is, since I've been dealing with this cancer issue, and by the way, thank you for all the people who have just written in and called me and texted me, especially guys, and saying, man, I'm with you. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
I try not to speak too much about it. I'm not going to turn this show into a, oh, woe is me, but it has been an adjustment for sure. Mm-hmm. And it has spawned a nonfiction book, which I'll be working on during the break and over the next several months. So I just want to say again, thank you for your support. But Daddy does need a little bit of a rest, just a little chill time.
There's a fine line between overshare and just not. There's a fine line between overshare and not being honest and vulnerable with this community of writers, this community of friends that has evolved over the course of the last 3 years. So I think you've done a great job of finding that balance. And as a result, it's like anything, the moment you start talking about what's really happening in your space, people rally around, and you find out quickly that this type of cancer touches a lot of people, and there's a ripple effect. And to hear you put yourself out there, to see you just hit your deadlines, hit your marks week after week, it's inspiring to show people that just keep pushing that ball forward, move the needle, and you can go through something really challenging but still show up every day and give it 100%.
Thank you, honey. That's very nice. And what she said. But thank you to everyone. Just this writing community. I've developed some really great friends. I can name them all off, but you know who you are. You've been checking in. And anyway, so thank you for that. We're looking forward to season 7. Enjoy your summer. Keep reading. And for my writers, keep writing. There's plenty of work out there.
Absolutely. See you in September.
All right. I'll see you next time for another edition. Beep, beep, beep. I'm Dave Temple.
I'm Tammy Temple.
And we'll see you next time for another edition of The Thriller Zone.
Boom.
Nice. You still here? I thought the show's over, Seriously, if you're still hanging out this long, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, there were so many books to read, so many I wanted to give awards to, but there's only so many books, so much time. So I hope everyone felt happy who won, and just know that those who I didn't pick, you're still tops in my book. I'd give a top 100 if I could, even if we only had 60 books. Anyway, thank you so much for your support. Thanks for always being there. Thanks for your thoughts and prayers. And just thank you for making us one of the best podcasts out there. Your front row seat to the best thriller writers in the world, right? We started there. And we're coming back for season 7 right after Labor Day holiday. All right, get out there and enjoy your summer. And keep reading. Bye now. For real.